an old recording engineer told me, it's like, tell the drummers to hit soft on the metal and hard on the skin.
Welcome to the Production Masters Podcast, the philosophies and techniques behind making music according to the masters of music production. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Production Masters Podcast. My name's Owen Gillett from productionmasters.net and icecocoon.com.au. Today is my interview with none other than the heavy metal legend, Fredrik Nordstrom. Fredrik was instrumental with creating the Gothenburg sound in the early 90s, going right through to the 2000s and beyond. Recorded such bands as Dimmu Borgir, a lot of the early Opeth stuff, as well as so many other bands, just so many. He gave up a good amount of time to talk about all the different questions regarding production that I had and shared some stories about different recording experiences with some of those bands. I thought it was a very fruitful interview, and I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did conducting it. One last thing before we get started, just a reminder, you can subscribe to the podcast at Stitcher Radio and also at iTunes if you go to podcasts there. And again, I'd love it if you'd leave me a review there as well. So with no further ado, here is my interview with Fredrik Nordstrom. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another Production Masters podcast. This is Owen Gillett from Ice Cocoon and productionmasters.net. And today we have what you might say, heavy metal royalty on the line. Mr. Fredrik Nordstrom, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Awesome. So
I'm fine.
That's awesome. So let's start. Obviously, everyone probably knows you from the fact that you're attached to the Gothenburg metal sound, and you've recorded all the really big bands from Europe and that came up in that metal scene, like all the Opeths and Soilwork and all that. But let's go back a bit further, and I'm actually interested in knowing a little bit about your background, where you came from before that's the guy that you became. And how that eventually, or when opening your own studio came into the picture. So let's start with that, if you want to tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, of course. I'm actually was like when I became 6 years old, I saw Jimi Hendrix on television. This is something I'm going to do. I'm going to play guitar. So I started learning to play guitar when I was 9, 10, but I was left-handed, so I had the guitar as Jimi Hendrix on the wrong side. So it took me 2 years because my guitar teachers forced me to play it in the right way. So it took me 2 years to learn 3 chords.
Right. Because
I was flipping the guitar over to the other side all the time. So that's why it took me 2 years to learn 3 chords. So it didn't look good, but then I was used to playing with so many bands all over the place. My goal was actually to be a musician.
Yep.
Most of the producer guys' goals.
Yeah.
But then I came in contact with all this recording gear. Back in those days, it was 4-track recorders on the cassette tapes.
Sure.
And I really fell in love with gears and all that shit. And so I started building up like a small recording studio in my home. I played with several bands, and then we went to a recording studio and recorded, like a real recording studio, and recorded our first demo.
Yeah.
And I really liked that place. So I actually, after my military service, I asked the guy if he wanted a companionship. So I went into that guy. We stick together for a year or something. And then it all started. But I was mainly into pop music, actually, and I'm still are. I'm a big fan of ABBA.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, totally.
It's like there's so much music in their music. It's insane. Still today, if I hear stuff with ABBA, I can be so blown away and just listen, and it's like, wow, what arrangement, what a bass playing. Everything's super well performed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And does your enjoyment of pop music extend to Roxette?
To Roxette.
Do you like them?
Yeah, I'm like separate music in two parts, not in genres. It's like good music or bad music.
Yeah.
And then it can be opera or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And,
yep.
Yeah.
So, right, how does you go from being that guy to the person that opens his own heavy metal studio?
Yeah, it's like I told you, it's like in beginning I was mainly doing pop music, and then we had a rehearsal room that we shared with many other bands, and one of these bands was Ceremonial Oath from back in the days.
Yeah.
With Oscar Droniak from Hammerfall, Anders Ives now playing Tiamat, and we have Jesper Strömblad from In Flames. And they told us on a meeting that they get a record deal with the band. And I convinced them to come to my studio to record that because I had never recorded an album before. So that was like a big thing for me. So to be honest, I didn't realize what's going on in the during that recording because I was absolutely not into that kind of music style. I was just like sitting and watching fingers moving around.
Right.
Yeah. And then, they had friends and that's how it was going, actually. They talked to some other band and I said that studio was good. And the guys was nice and everything. So I get more bands coming to my studio. And suddenly I had At the Gates Slaughter of the Soul album on my neck.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys said to me, it's like, we're not going to record with you if you don't buy a 24-track recorder. Back in the days, everything was analog, and I had a 16-track recorder. So I went to the bank and borrowed a shitload of money and upgraded my studio.
To a 2-inch tape machine, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And recorded the Slaughter of the Soul. And I was like in the middle of a divorce during that period. So
shit.
My only escape was actually to like dig myself down in the studio, which I've done. That's the reason of the divorce was because I was working 14 to 16 hours every day for 7 days a week. So I was never home.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then I went total nuts with that album, I think, in like sound-wise, how it should sound. And that album spread so well worldwide. So suddenly I get phone calls from England and like around the world.
Yeah, and this was was like very early 90s?
Yeah, 94.
Yeah,
95.
And so when you were working on that album, were you sort of flying by the seat of your pants in terms of what you thought it should sound like as the end product, or did you have a clear vision of what you knew it was going to sound like before you started?
The direction from the band was they want to sound like a machine. They want to be like super tight.
Yeah. And
as you didn't have any like Pro Tools or anything back then, you have to perform it well. So we spent a week on drums, 2 days only for checking the sound of the drums because drum triggering was not so well developed back then. So it has to be, you need to have a good drum sound. And we had, actually. I've been taking up the track recently and listened to the like raw files, and it's well tracked, actually. Tracked.
Yep.
And I know we spent 2 weeks on like recording guitars, and there are also 2 days of sound checking the guitars. So and we tried out all mic configurations we could find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so did you experiment with different string gauges for the guitars? Did you go that far, or?
No.
Yeah, this was something one of the first things I actually had on my list of questions for you was to talk about that. The process back then was much more. There was much more. Obviously, there had to be more of an emphasis on the band being able to play when you're recording to tape. You had to work a lot harder, I guess, to get that kind of a result. Like, as in the band themselves. I mean, the performance.
Yes, and yeah, it's absolutely, and also it's like punching in on drums, for example, was like a very tricky
Yeah,
thing to do, especially with fast drums. You have to punch in between like the hits,
yeah,
and then you have to rewind when the take was done and see if the punching was okay or not. So it was just like everything was way more trickier.
yeah. And then I guess if the drummer wasn't playing quite as hard or whatever, it might sound strange, or all those kind of considerations, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but that's what, like, for example, what you can hear today is like when people play blast beats
Yeah,
and the snare is on full power. That's impossible to do.
yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And for me, it sounds unnatural
yeah.
because, yeah.
So,
So, but like when you do everything with drum machines today, and that's, people don't think about it.
yeah. So do you think where it's gone now that the expectation is actually unrealistic, that of what bands are supposed to sound like, or
I think it's mainly people who are up to music. It's like, but actually, I'm gonna record. Like next recording I'm doing is like actually a old band coming back to me because they want to go back.
right?
They don't want to have, they don't want to be like 100% tight. It's boring. They say it's not fun to listen to. They want to be, if you play wrong, we play wrong, and it's more interesting. So
No,
I think
totally. I totally agree. Yeah, So I think it's completely tedious to hear where the performance has been completely quantized out of it. Even though that's sort of, and I think some people have come to expect that that's what heavy metal just needs to sound like to be at a certain standard. But I don't see that there's any reason that it needs to be that process to the point of it. Yeah, basically becoming a drum machine. It doesn't need to be like that. I don't think.
no. But there's productions. It's like, I think Andy Sneap took it to its limit with one of the Nevermore album, because I was listening to it and I was just laughing because it's just like, this is just like too tight. It's too well performed. It's too everything. And it was just like, I don't remember the name of the album, but just like I was sitting laughing because it just was like, this is insane. He do great production. It's just like, I think it's like people maybe are turning back and go a little bit. There is a lot of producers that I call grid hookers. That's just like make sure that everything is on grid instead of using the ears.
Yeah.
And that's something I always try to do. And I did like an Icelandic band recently called Beneath. They played very technical metal.
Yeah.
And we actually went more or less 100% untriggered drums and 100% real takes, no fake.
Yeah.
It was a lot of hard work, a lot of patience, but it's turned out to sound really good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what I would personally rather listen to. So sometimes would you ever use like no added in samples into your drum sound? Would you actually ever just use entirely the acoustic drum sounds?
Not often.
Yeah.
But that's it. Using samples enhance the drums so much, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I always try to find like a multi-sample sample, so you have like the full dynamic range and everything.
Yeah.
So it's not get too sterile.
Yeah.
And machine gun sounding.
Yeah. So it's not replacement so much as it is reinforcement.
More reinforcement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I find it an art to record a good acoustic drum kit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody can put microphones on a drum kit and make it sounds good. That's including tuning and everything. And of some reason, most drummers don't know how to tune the drums. So yeah, I get this question many times, and I normally reply, "Yes, I can help you tune drums."
Yeah.
And then I follow up with the question: do the guitar player and bass player also need help with tuning the guitars and bass? But
you'd hope
but
not.
they normally can do that.
Yeah. So have you ever done a course or something on drum tuning, or have you just sort of learnt by just doing it for so long?
I read an article in a magazine several times about drum tuning, and I'm far away from an expert on it. We have a guy here in Gothenburg that is really good with drum tuning that we sometimes, where's time and money, we call him in and he asks what we want and he tune it for us.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And he also works on a not in the store, but the general agency or whatever you call it. They sell in Tama and Evans and all that stuff. So he normally like bring the gear he want to have.
Yeah, sure. So, and how important is getting the right combination of cymbals when you're putting your drum kit together? Because do you ever sometimes find that one is, when you're miking it up, one is too harsh or one is just sort of overwhelming the rest? Do you have to spend a bit of time balancing where the cymbals all are and which cymbals you're using?
Yes, I think that's happened all the time.
Yeah.
There was always a very loud hi-hat and a very low China.
Yeah, I know hi-hats and Chinas. the nemesis of
and ride cymbal can be like. Normally, I don't record a hi-hat microphone.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more in that case a ride one. But sometimes you have to do it because you have to ask the drummer, are you playing with closed hi-hats? Yes, I do. Okay, then we have to put the mic on there also. But normally it's like the loudest instrument in the drum kit is the hi-hat.
Yeah. Do you have any other secrets or tricks about sort of managing the hi-hat, not overwhelming everything, or
no?
Just choosing the right hats, or I mean, not having a just trying some different ones.
Like an old recording engineer told me, it's like, tell the drummers to hit soft on the metal and hard on the skin.
Yay! Yeah, that sounds like awesome advice. So, do you have any, after all the experience you've had, do you have any favorite mics for overheads?
I use the Neumann. What the fuck is the name of them? The pen microphone.
KM84s.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also use Shure microphones. TSM 141.
Okay, is that a large diaphragm mic?
No, it's a small one.
Yeah, right. Okay. So is your philosophy with the overheads to capture more of the texture or more of the cymbals more than like the overall kit picture, or?
Yes, absolutely. If you can eliminate the skin from the overhead, that should be nice.
Sure.
But it's because when it's coming to heavy metal music, everybody wants to be loudest on every instrument, and then it's like a lot of leaking from mics and stuff. It's not wanted so much, even if it's nice for a good overall sound. But it's not come useful. It's like ambience microphones. It's mainly not used in my productions when it's coming to fast music. It's just making a mess of the drums.
Right. So do you
if you have a rock
mics?
album? Sorry.
So do you are room mics important for? Do you usually record room mics? So then room mics part of your sound?
No, not for fast drumming.
Not even a little bit.
No.
Okay. So,
but if I do like bands like Hammerfall, like when it's coming to like normal rock music, then ambience is absolutely good.
Yeah,
but when it's coming to Dimmy Borgir, no, it's no good.
Yeah, because it's gonna with the speed, everything will just turn to mush pretty quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. So with guitars and amps, is there anything in particular? Since I know that you've said you feel like you try to still go for a different sound with each band, but I think there's a bit of a signature guitar tone that I can sort of hear across a lot of your productions. I can sort of hear it in there. Oh, I think I can anyway. So, is there is there something in particular about your guitar sound that you like? Do you focus on getting the sound on the amp first, or more on your mic choice or mic positioning, or is there any secrets that you have?
No, but I can tell you this: we did in Flames Clayman album, and we used an Engel 120 Savage.
Yep.
We used 5150, the PV amp. We used an Marshall valve state, and then we used an Laney. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah.
But I was separately tweaking these amps of what I find sounds good.
Yeah.
And then when we compared it, it was pretty similar. All of the sounds. They have like small different characters, yes. So we choose 2 amps for the fast songs and 2 amps for the slow songs.
That's interesting.
Because yeah. So it could be, but we had the same cabinet and we had the same miking. So I was surprised that the valve state was like so close to like the Engel, for example.
Yeah, right. So,
yeah.
So does this, when you're, do you have favorite mics that you seem to continue using on your cabinets?
Yeah, the 57s, they're like what they call the Fredman technique. That works always.
Oh yeah, like in a, I've seen that. Like
all mics I have.
It's like a V.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now.
Yeah, I know Wilkinson Audio doing a clip for that trick, but the angle is wrong because I get my hands on it.
What? Sorry, I missed that. What was that? Sorry.
There's a company called Wilkinson Audio.
Yeah.
They're doing a Fredman technique mic clip.
Yep, on YouTube or something. Oh no, a clip.
Yeah.
Oh, like as in a mic clip. Yeah, I got you. Right, but it's not the right angle.
No, it's not the right angle.
Oh, far out, man.
I tried it out.
All right, so and do you, when you're getting your guitar sound, do you do much processing in terms of running it through any outboard or anything when you're pulling your guitar sounds?
No. I'm always try to be very simple these days. Okay. I was leading the war who get the most gear when the dice win, but I'm get bored of that. So I'm very minimalistic now.
Sure.
To be honest, yeah. But of course. But that's what I tell you. It's like from time to time I'm breaking up what I'm doing and try new stuff and see if I get it better.
Yeah.
And if not, I go back to what I use.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you always have to, you cannot be. It's the same like with drum sampler you use. It's like, this one I haven't used and this one I haven't used. It's like trying new stuff all the time, even if it's of some reason ending up to be pretty similar what you did before. But it's always trying to push the limits, try new stuff, and so on.
For sure.
Also with drum triggering, is what I'm doing is like if I find a trigger that I think match with acoustic sound, I always tune the trigger so it's match with the tuning of the acoustic one.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So so when you're using the triggered sounds and they're reinforcing, is that to reinforce it, or is it to sort of add more attack, or is it to add more body?
Yes. Everything. It's just like more body, more attack, and so on. Sure. Actually, I the previous, not the latest one, but the previous Hammerfall album I did, I get a message from the drummer, and he said, everything sounds really good except that song. And he said, the trigger is tuned 22% on tom 2, is tuned 22% higher, and on Tom 3, the trigger is tuned 33% higher. And I'm replied, no, I checked it on the first song I did, and it's perfectly in tune. No, yeah, it is, but not on that song. And I opened that song, and then that was the last song recorded, and Tom 2 and 3 had been down-tuned 22 cent and 33 cent, and that fucking guy heard it.
Wow, that's crazy. That's pretty good hearing for a drummer.
Yeah, but his father was one of the most genius jazz musicians ever, and he is a fucking good musician.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So I guess
that's what I call like perfect hearing. Or
I guess the moral of that story is you can't just slap things together. Like there is it's the details do make all add up to a difference in the end.
In the end, yeah, but it's like it's like you can spend 5 days on work of something to do it perfect.
Yeah.
And maybe one guy hear the difference. And if nobody heard what you did before that, there's nobody going to hear the difference.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. It might be one of those things. And if no one pointed it out, you'd never hear it. And then if someone pointed it out, you might not be able to ever unhear it or something. I don't know. So
yeah.
So
yeah, but this is so easy to like dive in and dig in and keep on working, and then the song is not good, so it doesn't matter.
Sure, because I suppose I guess it's like you've got to keep some of the energy and the essence of it there instead of polishing it all away, I suppose. I mean,
yeah, but listen to Slayer, Rain in Blood. It's like so untight, bad sound, cool songs, and a lot of aggression in recording.
Just capturing the intensity of the performance.
Yes. So then it doesn't matter if you have a good sound or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's probably a whole nother like avenue of discussion about, it almost seems to be the way music has gone now. Like the sound might be slick, but like, is the music that fantastic half the time? I'm not completely sure about that. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
But that's the thing is like when you're working with music, it's like if you're working with a band, and that's happened from time to time that you run into something that you maybe, I shouldn't have done this. But of course you have to do your job well. And not like, that's what I have tried to do my whole life. I have never released anything that I've been 100% happy with. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There is always something you can do better.
Absolutely.
But you learn something every time, and it's just like always try to do your best when you do stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some good wisdom for everybody out there. So if you are going to work with a band from scratch to do a whole production, at what stage do you usually become involved with? If you're going to do pre-production with them, how much do you get involved with the songwriting or their early demos or that sort of thing?
Oh, that's depending so much on. It's like if you take a band like The Haunted, those guys, they are like, normally they don't. When I did the first album with them, they don't want any like interference or what you call it indie music. They're like, we want this. We want you to help us to make a good sound for our songs. And if you say something about the songs, they just reply, it's going to be like this, how we did it. No discussion.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Some bands, and some bands, it's like you can come with suggestion, and they are, and let's like work this out together. And so it's very depending on. It's like we did a Australian band. We've done many Australian band here.
Mm-hmm.
Buried in Verona.
Oh yeah.
And there we had a lot of like cooking going on, as I call it, it's like music-wise. We did like a lot of music together here in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's depending on project to project, I should say. So if people want help, I help them. And if they don't want help, I don't want to help them. But it's important like to try to make the band sounds like that band.
Yeah.
And don't try to make them sound like another band.
So I'm kind of a little bit curious now. Going back to the days of recording the early Opeth albums, how much input did you have into their process of the songs? Because I believe that some of their stuff they brought in, they weren't really even completely organized or prepared, and they sort of...
No, but that's to be honest, to say very little. Because Michael, he asked me sometimes, what do you think? Should we play this riff 6 times or 8 times? I replied, I think it's enough with 4 times. And he was like, no, that's not going to happen. that's not going to happen. Then we play it 8 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they were like, yeah, I know they're creating a lot of music in the studio, but they were pretty hippie back then. They were like, in the middle of a recording, they could be like, fuck this, let's go downtown and buy some vinyl albums. And they disappeared for 4 hours. And they were sitting, it could be like the whole night, recording stuff by themselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and so your role was largely about getting them a good sound and being there to facilitate their creative output, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's depending on. It's like I said, if people want help with the songs, or if I directly notice on a song that this is fucked, then I bring it up to discussion, and then let's see what's happened. Because some bands are like, no, this is perfect as it is. Then it's no point of forcing them to change something that they didn't want to change. Yeah. And
So that's, I guess that's more of like a creative arrangement thing. But in terms of performance, is there a way that you work with bands to work out if they're even ready to record, so to speak, or like that? Do you have to sort of sometimes listen to what they've got and suggest that they need to hit the rehearsal room hard for 3 months, or like in the pre-production stage?
Yeah, I have done that a couple of times, but it's like been discussing with bands and realized this is just too crap. I don't want to work. And you tell them straight out, guys, you are not ready for recording an album. And then they never hang up the phone, if you get my point, or email or whatever. And they ask me, what should I do right? And what should I do here? And what should I do? And I really don't have time for that, to explain for them how to write good songs and so on.
No, totally.
So I try to sneak away if that's happened.
Yeah. No, fair call. So let's talk a little about mixing. When you're mixing, I know that you've started doing your own mastering at your studio as well. But
yes,
when you're doing a mix, though, do you have anything on any processing on the master bus, or let's start with that question.
Yeah, I did before. Now it's also a little bit depending on. Sometimes you have done a mix and you think it's good, but it's missing something. Then I'm starting to put stuff on the mastering bus to see if I can enhance it. But back when I started mix totally digital, I find out that there was something missing.
Yeah.
And then I started using from TC Electronics a master multiband compressor called MD3.
Yeah, sure.
But that's not available anymore for some reason.
Yeah, that's right.
And also because before when we send stuff to mastering, it's like I hate to get back a mastering where like the mastering guy has tried to be creative and make his sound, and he fuck up whole your mix. So I was doing that on purpose. Actually, did a more or less complete mastering on the mix and deliver it to the mastering studio. And they were like, "Oh, we cannot do anything with this. This is too loud," and blah blah blah. And then I just replied, "Then we have to go somewhere else."
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you'd ever been disappointed when you got a master back, relative to when you've sent your mix off, and when you'd heard the master, you were horrified or whatever.
So many times, many times.
What's your main? What was your main sort of complaint with it when you heard it back? What was wrong with it?
It has been like many labels want so much treble, and they want it so fucking loud.
Yeah.
So they just smashed the whole mix to make it loud and trebly as fuck. And you ask the mastering guy, "Why did you do that?" Yeah, because the label wants it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they probably want it with more bottom end.
Yeah, they want more. But that's what heavy metal is about. Who can play loudest? Who can play fastest? And so on.
I had something mastered by Goran Finnberg a while ago, and I actually asked him if he thought that heavy metal needed to be compressed and really crushed to actually have its sound, and he basically said, "I don't think anyone actually gives a rat's ass. Like, the listener doesn't really give a rat's ass how loud something is. I don't think they even know the difference, basically." But I'm interested in what you think as to whether you think metal actually needs to be crushed to a certain point to have its sound. Like, what do you think about that? Especially since you're now doing mastering as well, so you'd be sensitive to like the dynamics versus the fatness thing, you know?
Yeah, you need to be. The loudness war have stopped a little bit, and now there is a lot of new mastering versions coming up for iTunes and iCloud and everything. So
yeah.
But when I do mastering, I try to get equal in volume at least that what other album have. Because if you have if you're listening to your playlist on Spotify, and every time a Studio Fredman album comes up, you need to raise the volume. That's not so fun. So that's something I try to do. But
so
yeah,
in terms of
sometimes people want it way too loud.
Yeah. So in terms of and just an aesthetic though, do you think metal needs a certain amount of crushing or limiting or compressing in the mastering stage to have its sound, or I guess at the end of the mix bus? I mean, does it need a certain amount of that to have its sound, or do you think it could do with a lot less and it might even sound better?
It could sound better with less limiting, yes.
Yeah. And when did you actually start doing mastering? I suppose, well, actually, it sounds like you were sort of doing mastering back when you were mixing, but when did you officially sort of start mastering?
5 years ago, maybe. I think actually it was, again, Andy Sneap. He mastered all his album by himself.
Yeah.
And that suddenly, because before people was asking, for example, for a mix, and you did the mix, and they asked, "Where's a good mastering studio?" And you told them, "This guy here, Göran Finnberg or TaylorMade or whatever, they do mastering."
Mm-hmm.
But suddenly people start asking for mix and mastering.
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, why don't start do mastering? And Henke, the guy I worked with before, he was like, he likes mastering. He likes to be. For me, mastering is a little bit gay.
All right. So
not in terms of homosexual. It's more like it's like if you take the treble 1 dB up, stuff happens. If you get my point.
Yeah.
And it's just like yeah. It's just small touches. I'm more like, instead of doing a painting, I preferably build a house. If you get my point.
Yeah, more sort of broad brush strokes as opposed to Yeah.
Yeah. But if you do 1 dB on a snare drum,
Yeah.
that's not much happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I'm not against mastering, but it's just like when it's coming to EQs and everything, it's like everything is so sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
I know a tiny pinch goes a long way.
Yeah.
So what are you using for monitoring these days for that?
I still have my Genelec 1030 and 1037.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be my favorite for a long time. I'm actually find out another pair of speakers that was actually giving this Genelecs a good match, and that was Neumann.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, really, really good. But there was not really enough volume in them. I think the small ones and the big ones are a little bit too big. So I haven't really found. But that's actually what I'm gonna upgrade next. It's like to find a better near field monitor. It's not that the Genelecs are bad, but this Neumann was better.
Yeah. So do you get enough of the really low end extension to be able to judge your bottom end the way you like it with those?
No, not really. But I have this big 1037, and they are like massive speakers, so I can play loud there.
Yeah.
And check the low end. But in the end, people playing through laptop speakers, so.
Yeah, this is true, and you're not going to hear anything below 500 hertz through them. So.
No. Yeah. No, but you have to take care of the people who actually listen to music and don't play MP3s and stuff like that also.
Yeah, well, I can say I listened to, there was another Adelaide band, and Allegro Adagio, I think, or some sort of name like that. I bought that to have a listen to it, and I thought the mastering sounded great, actually. Like, I thought, yeah, because I was kind of curious, and I knew it was going to be leading up to me talking to you, so I got it to have a listen to it, and I thought, oh wow, that sounds awesome, man. So whatever you're using, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, yes, pretty much simple stuff. A small compressor, an EQ, and a fab filter limiter, which is jolly good.
So
to be honest, that's
all digital.
Is very transparent. Sorry.
Yeah. So and that's all digital, is it?
Yeah, all digital.
Yeah. But when you do you still have an analog board?
No.
Also, when you're tracking or mixing, none of it's on a desk anymore.
No.
I think you did used to have a desk there, didn't you?
Yeah, I have mic preamps from Widtech and SSL.
Yeah.
And DigiDesign's own mic preamp, which is very good. Actually, everybody's talking crap about that microphone preamplifier from DigiDesign, but
is that the HD Pre?
Yeah.
Right, like the original HD Pre. Like from
Avid.
The one with like one knob on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tried one time. I had a console, which everybody told me was really like, yeah, that's a good console. It's not many functions, but it's have a very rock and roll sound.
Yeah.
I recorded a drum kit through that console, and then I recorded to the mic pre from Avid.
Yeah.
And I let the drummer listen and said, which sound do you prefer? And he listened, and he said, I prefer the second sound. It's much better, he said. And I said, I agree. And he asked me, what preamplifier is that? Is that the console, the AMEC console? No, it's the Avid console, Avid mic pre.
Yeah, sure.
And it's maybe not sexy in the sound, but it's very clear and transparent.
No, that's very
and
interesting.
It's cheap for the money.
And I think people are too quick to make judgments about. No, a lot of people were complaining about they didn't like the converters in the original HD systems, or they won't use DigiDesign converters. They only use XYZ converters. Do you have an opinion about converters?
No, I know you can get better sound with a good clock for sure. That was something that Göran Finnberg showed me. But it's like Clayman album is mainly recorded on ADAT machines from Alesis.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, and for some people, this is still a very good sounding album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
the drums is recorded analog.
All right. And the rest of it to ADAT.
Yeah.
So
we recorded the vocals in the Pro Tools system.
Yeah.
Because because Pro Tools was not developed good enough back then. We had only 16 tracks, so we couldn't keep everything in there. So we had vocals in Pro Tools. I think we had everything that needed some kind of automation. We had in Pro Tools, and the rest was on ADAT machines, and drums was on analog 24 track. It took 10 seconds to synchronize everything every time you hit play.
And then rewinding as well, I suppose, as well. If you're
yeah.
Oh man. So do you still have your 2-inch tape machine?
No.
So no more.
I don't.
No more tracking drums to tape.
No.
Okay.
I'm super digital here.
So
I have a computer, 16 track microphone preamplifiers. I actually have an analog compressor from Wintec and from Uray.
Yeah.
That's it. And I keep my de-esser from DBX.
So
because that's the best one.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of drums though, do you feel like there's something you get, like in terms of this texture or the sound quality, is there something extra that you used to get from tape that it's harder to get from digital?
I don't know, to be honest, because it's like when you're distorting tape, you're losing all that treble in it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't find it very nice sounding for metal drums to record on analog too loud.
Sure.
And every time you're rewinding and playing this fucking tape, you're scratching the tape and you're losing treble and stuff like that. So there was a lot of negative stuff with that. That's why we recorded the drums on Clayman album analog, and then we just played it one time through and recorded all the drums to ADAT machines. So we left the tape with the drums.
Yeah.
So we didn't scratch them. And then we recorded all the guitars and everything on ADAT machines. And then finally we recorded vocals, and I think it was guitar solos. No, so it was, and only vocals actually we recorded it on Pro Tools. And then we moved over whatever it was. But it's different to mixing digital than analog, for sure. It can be like you have a good, if for example you're mixing the drum kit and you have a really good snare drum.
Yeah.
And then you releasing the solo bottom for the drums and everything starts playing. And then the snare drum is just like poke, poke, poke. And that was not what you mixed. So you have to saturate, especially the snare drum. It has to be like, pow, like that to get like a pop in the mix. I don't know what it is, if it's Pro Tools or if it's a clock or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's different. But I like to be hands on with stuff. That's why I have this decontrol surface for Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Then I can like mixing with knobs
and
instead
faders.
of sitting with the mouse.
So you like mixing with faders? Is it?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, in regard to mixing, do you start by structuring a good drum sound?
Yeah, as that should be the foundation in the whole metal song.
Yeah.
Always start with the bass. The drums.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But
of course, then when you have guitars and everything on, you always have to go back and tweak.
Yeah.
What you did.
Yeah. And with bass, as in bass guitar, do you would the DI be more of the foundation of your sound in the mix, or would the amp sounds be more of the foundation of the bass sound? Or is there no rules?
Normally it's like the line signal we use, because there is the amp sound is normally it's not like muddy. If you get my point.
Yeah.
It's not often that bass player bring gears that have a good sound.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but if they have a unique, good bass sound, of course we try to capture that, because that's for me very important.
Yeah.
But mainly it's the line signal.
Sure. Okay. And do you have like 4,000 plugins on your computer when you're mixing, or do you have like a some favorites that you seem to always use?
I'm there also try to be minimalistic.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of plugins before, but I actually trashed everything and reinstalled everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And if I'm missing something, I get it. So I have actually a lot of plugins on my iLock account that I never use.
And do you like would you ever use the standard Pro Tools plugins, like the standard 7-band EQ and the stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For
because
even...
also I use as I use the decon. What's the name of this? The control. The big one is decontrol.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Or decommand. I don't. Yeah. There you have the built-in EQ, and it's very hands-on. It's like you have the whole EQ in front of your hand, and you just like tweak the knobs, and you don't even have to watch the screen. You just use your ears and tweak until you find it sounds good. And that EQ3, it's not sexy, but it's very good, especially to take away noise, like screamy frequency and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the Waves SSL EQ is something I use a lot also.
Yep.
Even also the UAD. UAD is very, very good plugins. It's the closest one to the real deal I ever find, actually.
The UAD SSL plugins?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And overall, all the UAD plugins are like very similar to the real deal.
Yeah, sure. All right. Yeah, awesome. So, heading into the future, obviously, I mean, everybody knows that the music industry in general has changed, and obviously with the internet and the accessibility of technology, everybody downloading all that sort of stuff, sales diminishing, all that sort of thing, that it's had the follow-on is that, there's been an impact onto recording studios and all that sort of thing. I expect that look, heading into the future, though, where do you think it's going to go next in terms of studios and all that? It's not an easy question. No.
But I told you, like we spoke before, I'm like opening up my own store now and selling plugins and stuff. And
so the plugins that you've developed or been part of the development of, or?
Yeah, we start off with 3 drum kits with drum samples for trigger instrument and contact player.
Yep.
We are actually opening up today, 3:00.
Awesome. Okay, and if people want to go and check those out, what's the best way for people to go and find those?
It's fredmandigital.com, I think it is. It's so brand new for me. It's like...
Yep, sure.
Yep, fredmandigital.com.
Awesome. And so if people want a really amazing sounding drum kit for some samples,
that's the place to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think you said it's I think you said it's the In Flames drummer has come and recorded the samples at your studio.
He will come to the studio and do it.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, we are all parents and he's sick. His kids are sick. That's why he's not showed up yet.
Oh,
but
true.
we have done an Adrian Ellison drum kit, and in the end of next month, Adrian will come here and we will do a full cymbal set with him.
Yeah.
Because he had a pretty unique cymbals. So we're going to do an Adrian Ellison's cymbal kit, and we're going to do a couple of more cymbal kits. There is a lot of good cymbals out there, I know that, but he kind of insisted that he won't have his cymbals also. As I already had recorded his drums, just like the skins, because the plan from the beginning was like I should release a sample library called "Bring Your Own Cymbals."
Yeah.
Because because it was to be honest easier to record the skins and do all the cymbal hits. So that kit the 3 kits we are releasing now is without cymbals.
Right.
And it's a little bit more pointing to people like me, like you need a good snare drum, where to find it, and you're sitting and combining snare drums and shit, and I always try to do, like when we have recordings here, I always try to do like a multi-sample recording of each drum.
Yeah.
So I make my own samples.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
The only way to be unique is to make your own shit.
Yep.
So what I have done is, like, for these drum kits, I have like put on like my whole mix on the drum kits that I have used on an album, for example.
Yeah. So
and tweaked it from there and tried to get like this is this drum kit together with all the guitars and everything sounds good. So here you go.
So there's nothing left. There's nothing else anyone's got to do to it.
You can still tweak it. You can still tweak it. The guys who are doing like the demos for it, he's straight off. He went on and started tweaking a little bit on it, but not much. But he did some touch up. That's he find, and there's always something you can do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like you said before,
but I try to make it as ready as possible.
Sure. And like you said before, obviously, once you add in all the rest of a mix in, like all your other instruments, it quite often things get a tweak here and there anyway, like back on the kit, or when you're mixing. So yeah. So all right, let's finish off with a few other questions. Which aren't necessarily straight up about engineering, but to be productive, how important is diet and sleep to be a good engineer or engineer producer?
It is important for sure, and but it's for everything. It's like I see my kids; they're doing motocross, and if they fuck up the sleep one day, it's not going to go good the next day. Yeah. So of course it's important with sleep and food and everything.
Do you ever remember doing a session where you were thrashed with no sleep and it was not working for you, or?
Long time ago, yes, I have done it. But it's just like it's the same. It's like it's no point of running into the wall all the time. It's like if you have worked 8 hours and you're tired, just quit. It's no point. You're not going to do it better. And if you stay 4 hours more and try to make it better.
So do you?
And this is like so confirmed by. I have read so many articles about the people who produced ABBA, for example.
Yep.
And they say the same thing. It's no point of doing 200 takes. It's always the 3 first that is the best one. You
know what? I was actually just listening to a tutorial with Cameron Webb, who recorded all the last 8 Motorhead albums, and he said exactly the same thing. He said basically, you want to get the band when they're revved up, and it'll be one of the first 3 takes. Even if you do 8 takes, it'll be one of. You basically need to try to get it in the first 3, because after that it's sort of downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like every experienced engineer and producers saying the same thing.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's why I'm like on my way and telling bands what do we need to do. You need to know the song. You need to have well-shaped instruments when you're coming here. And if you're going to sleep here, bring your own pillow and sheet so you can sleep well. And it's like because it's like when bands don't know their songs, it can be tricky.
Yeah, because then the first 3 takes are going to suck.
Yeah, but that's also it's like that's why I really like to record debut albums, because that's the first album that the band have done together, and they have worked on it so well. They have been in the rehearsal room all the time and doing all the songs. They know everything inside out. When you come to album number 3, they have never been in the rehearsal room, and it's going to take 3 times longer to do it. There is something with the debut albums. I think that is it's like with my own band. Our debut album is what I think the best album.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to have something completely unrelated to music in your life to sort of balance it out?
That's a tricky question.
Because it says on Wikipedia that you have 5 children. Is that true?
Yep.
Yeah, right. And
I have 2 grandchildren also.
Is that right? Oh, there you go. And are you seeing the possibility of any of them taking over the family business?
If they want. That's my opinion when it's coming to people, that they have to make their own decision. That's why my children is not baptized, because I told them, if you want to commit your belief in God, you do it when you're 15, when you go to church and confirm your belief, and then you can be baptized. I cannot stand in front of an audience in the church and promise. That's what we do in Sweden. You promise in front of the crowd and to God that you should raise the children in a Christian belief. And I'm not, I don't believe in God in that way. So I said, no, I cannot do this. But if they want to confirm themselves as Christian, go ahead and do it. If they want to play football or play guitar, go ahead and do it. Doesn't matter. They have to make their own choices.
Yeah, and I guess I think it's super important. Like I'm not actually a parent myself, but I think it's got to be so super important to encourage them whatever it is they want to do. Even if it's something like, I'm not particularly interested in sport, but I think if I had a kid that was obsessed with sport, I wouldn't try to groom them to be a audio engineer, So I guess it's pointless. So
but like all my 3 boys are like, I know they're playing pianos and drums and stuff like that, and guitars, sings. Yeah, my oldest daughter have a very good voice, but she don't want to do it. But okay, do whatever you want to do. So that's why I'm into motocross right now. 2 of my kids are practicing, and they are really, really into this sport.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So I did a European tour last summer with my middle son. He was doing a European championship in motocross.
No joke. That's amazing. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's a pretty.
Sorry.
I was gonna say that's a pretty different universe to producing heavy metal.
No, it's so fucking similar.
Really?
Yeah, you should see like this European championship going same time as the World Championship of motocross. So it's a big deal. It's like you have an audience of 40,000 people. When they give out the prizes, there is like a special backdrop. You can go into you can buy tickets to go into the paddock where all the bikes are, and it's like the same as a fucking rock concert. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's like people buying to meet and greet, for example, with bands. There is different fucking backdrops, and there is the audience. Everything is the same. It's so similar, and they have like 40 trucks with all the gears that are running around worldwide. It's super similar to like be on a rock tour.
Yeah. So
it's just like.
Oh, that's and so yeah. Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And so,
but it's different to producing music. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So maybe have to wait and see if there's a young Nordstrom that it's going to follow in the studio footsteps. Have to wait and see.
Case, I think it's my youngest son in that case.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But they have to be good on music first.
Yeah. Right. So speaking of which, what's happening with Dream Evil?
What's happening? We're releasing a new album now.
Yeah, right. Because the last one was 2010, was it?
Yeah, something like that. We are the laziest band on the moon.
Well, I'm sure you're not lazy. I'm sure you're busy, just not at that.
Yeah, we have. I don't know. I think we have like, let's see now. I think we in total have 15 kids in the band or something like that. 16 kids we have. So it's taking a lot of time. But it's like...
Yeah, wow, okay.
That's actually how we run the band now these days is fucking good, because we don't do many shows and so on. But every time we meet each other, it's fun. And that was the whole idea with having a band.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but can you imagine the day when you have your band and that will become your income and you have to think about business all the time? Then I know many famous bands they have a similar scenario that you have in Metallica's, what's the name of the DVD they did?
Some kind of monster, yeah.
Yeah. There is many bands that have similar situations like that. It's a fucking kindergarten. Everything is so infected. Nobody speaks with each other or anything.
Yeah.
Even like when I saw... My daughter was a big fan of One Direction.
Yeah.
I saw them when they left the venue. Every one of them left in their own cars.
Yeah.
But on paper, they are good friends. They are having the same tour bus. No, they don't. They hate each other.
Yeah. No, it's not what what music was ever supposed to be about, you know.
No, I know. But that's what's happened with many bands. Oh, that's the...
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up all my questioning and interrogation for you this afternoon or evening in my part of the world. So, so if people want to be in touch with you, what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you, whether it's for production or mixing or mastering? What's the best way for them to get in touch?
Email, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah. And if people want to check out your new drum sample product, it's what's the email address again? The web address?
It's fredmandigital.com.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
There should be some samples on there so they can listen to how it sounds.
Yeah, wicked. All right. Well, thanks for your time, and thanks very much for being on the podcast.
No problem, sir. My pleasure.